Here you are, you're ready to start a goal. You've had this on your mind for a long time. You've hyped yourself up. You're ready to get started. You're so excited about it. So you go out there and you tell your friends, you tell your family or your spouse, and they kind of don't think it's a good idea. They question you. They ask you, why do you want to spend that time and that resource on it? Do you really think you can do it? Chances are, if you have embarked on a new journey, a new goal, whether that be something for weight loss or an exercise or diet plan, going to church maybe, or starting a new business, chances are, if you've done some of those things and you've told your family and friends, you've had some naysayers. You've had some people question your motive, question whether or not you can do it even, and really kind of put a kink in your plan to do this thing that you've been thinking about and building up in your mind. That's what we're talking about today, is kind of some steps that we can take and some things that we can do when those around us aren't really encouraging us to go for our goals and instead are kind of trying to hold us back, whether they want to or not. It kind of happens. This has happened to me so many times. I mostly have supportive people in my family, but there are a couple of people who like to question me. And I think that it's less of a question of whether or not I can accomplish that thing and more of questions for their understanding. And that's the first thing that I want to mention here, is that sometimes the people who are being negative about the things that we're doing don't want to be negative, or they're not really trying to be negative. They're just trying to understand what you're thinking. You've had this idea in your mind and you've been thinking about it for a while, and the people who you're telling are new to it. They haven't heard of this before, or they can't see you doing that in that light. You're the one who is the expert here, right? They don't know what's in your head. So sometimes when they're just asking questions, they're like, tell me more about it. Let me know what you're thinking, what your thought process is here. If you're anything like me, you will have them ask you questions and your first instinct is to react and say, well, I want to do this thing though, and this is what I've been planning, this is what I've been thinking, I'm really excited about it, so I'm going to do it anyway, whether you want me to or not. That's not always the best way to respond, right? To have that kind of reaction. So the first thing, try and understand that they're trying to understand where you're coming from and what your plans are. The second piece of advice I have for this, if you have this goal, you're super excited and people aren't really on the same page as you, give them time to adjust. Like I said, you've had this in your mind, you've been thinking about it for a while, you understand from start to finish what you want to do. They're just hearing about it. If you're telling a spouse, let's say, hey, I'm kind of thinking of starting to go to church on Sundays. And they're like, well, that's kind of coming out of the blue. Where did that come from? Maybe it's not new to you because you've been thinking about this, but whenever you share that news, it's new to them. Sometimes I do this with my husband. Let me know if you do this at all, but when there is something new going on, I like to text him. So I'm not around. I don't see his reaction. I don't hear his initial thoughts on the thing. I let him ruminate about it while I'm not around. And so I text him and I say, hey, I'm kind of thinking of doing this thing on Saturday and let's talk about it tonight. So I'll text him at like 10 in the morning and then I'll see him at 5. He's had time to kind of do a question and answer thing on his own, maybe ask me a couple questions via text, but I don't get to see his initial reactions. And I think for me, let me know if you do this, but for me, it helps the situation because I'm not thinking that, well, he's not reacting the way that I want him to. He's not saying what I want him to. And so I get on the defensive. We take all of that out of it and then can have the discussion later on. The next piece of advice is if you're starting something that other people have done, right? It's kind of all been done before. So I suggest to find a community or some like-minded people who are doing that thing. If you're starting a new exercise program, of course, there's gyms out there. There's people in your neighborhood who probably walk So finding like-minded people, it might be this community, our community of genies that we have here who can really support you on and encourage you to take that next step forward. You can always set boundaries. That's my next piece of advice, is that let's say you have this friend who's like, I don't know why you'd want to do that. That's going to take a lot of time. It's going to take some money and you're not going to be able to do it anyway. Like, maybe you don't want a friend like that, but sometimes people do really come right out and say it, don't they? So you can always just kind of cut that person off from that piece of information, from that thing that you're doing. You don't have to share everything with everybody. You can always say, you know what? My mom is going to be so supportive, but my brother isn't. So I'm going to talk to my mom about it and not my brother. That's totally fine. The last couple of things have to do with your goal, your passion, and your desire for going forward with this thing that you want to do. This is something that's calling upon you. Maybe it's something that you've always wanted to do, and you're like, you know what? Now's the time. My kids are at an age to where I can spend an hour a night on this, and I'm ready to do it. Leading by example and showing those around you that you are working on this is so important. Like, it shows that you're serious, that you're really invested in it mentally, physically, and they will eventually, hopefully, get on board with you. They see that you're making progress, whatever this thing is. And I don't know about you, but whenever you see something like this, it's hard to be negative towards it. It's hard to say, well, you know what? This thing's making you happy, but I still don't want you to do it. I don't think that's going to happen. Hopefully, you're surrounding yourself with people who aren't going to be saying that to you. The last thing is keep your why strong. Why did you want to start this goal? And keep it true to yourself. This is something that you wanted to do, that you wanted to embark on, and it's your experience. This is your life. This is what you want in your life. You want to experience this thing, and it's important to you. And I think that is so important, to stay true to yourself, to the things that you want to do. Remember that movie, My Big Fat Greek Wedding, where the girl was explaining her family to her new boyfriend, and she's saying, well, we're Greek, so we're always in each other's business, and if I want to do this one thing with my hair, everybody has to come over and we have to try it out together. And she decided to break away from the family business and go work for her aunt at a travel company. And it was just this little desk job, and she wanted to go to school. She was so excited to do that. It was her own thing. It was her own time to do what she wanted to do. No matter how big or small this dream is, this goal is that you have, it's that little thing that is important to you. So I encourage you to stay strong, to stay at it, and remember, you're not doing this so you can tell other people. Hopefully, we're not doing this for the attention of it. We're doing this because we ourselves want this thing. We want something different in our lives, and we're willing to take the steps to make that change. I encourage you to move forward. It only takes one step at a time, and this sometimes is part of that step, is getting other people on board with you. So I wish you luck. I wish you encouragement. Let me know down below if this has happened to you so we can encourage you on, because I will always be your biggest fan in going for your dreams. I'll see you next time. Bye.